Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3. The trilogy. The rubber match. The final showdown between these two individuals has been signed. It's been confirmed. It will take place July the 10th. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Now, this coming off their rematch that took place in January of this year, in which Dustin Poirier got the better of Conor McGregor via second round knockout. Wasn't a TKO. The ref didn't, the ref. No. He knocked out cold Conor McGregor. So, this is a massive fight for both guys. I don't think it's the biggest fight in UFC history, but I do think it sells 2 million pay-per-views. I think this is a massive fight. Preferably, Las Vegas, maybe even Allegiant Stadium. Man, I'd love to be there in person if that were to be the case. But breaking down their last fight, I'll be transparent. I'll be open. I thought Conor McGregor was going to go in there first round and knock out Dustin Poirier. Now, don't get me wrong. He did look good in the first round. I did think Conor won the first round. Don't necessarily think he stunned Dustin. Maybe cracked him a couple times, but nothing Dustin couldn't handle, obviously. Dustin looked good in that first round too. Got a takedown. Got him in the clinch a couple times, landed some elbows. Conor did as well, or not elbows, shoulder strikes. Conor did as well. So a back and forth first round for sure. But I do think Conor won that round. But Dustin in the first round and more so the second round showed off a tremendous game plan with the basis, the staple of that game plan being the leg kicks. Conor McGregor notoriously stands heavy on his lead leg. Even when he was a karate, more of a side stance fighter, that lead leg was out there in the open, out there for the taking. And nobody really went after his lead leg like that consistently until Dustin Poirier did it in the second fight. And Conor didn't really have an answer to it. Now, he did catch the leg a couple times and followed up with the left hand, but nothing to where, Dustin had to be fearful of that left hand coming in and potentially cracking him. He kept chopping at that leg until it turned to ash. So, and Conor became, a sitting duck, a stationary target, and Dustin took advantage of it, en route to the knockout. So, it's easy to say Conor has to check the leg kick. He has to check the kick, and then everything is, gonna be fine. But the calf kick specifically, you feel your calf. There's not much to where you can block that kick. So I'm very interested to see what Conor has planned. Like I said, he could, try and grab the leg and potentially try to, I don't know, like throw a harder shot or just like unload on Dustin to prevent further leg kicks. But man, I'm really interested to see what Conor and his camp, what the adjustments are and where the adjustments are going to be made in this fight. So, pulling up the rankings real quick, we have Dustin Poirier as, in the pound-for-pound rankings, number 6, Conor at 15. And in the lightweight rankings, Dustin is the number 1 contender, and Conor is number 6. Now, Dustin Poirier made it pretty clear, made it pretty obvious. He bypassed the title shot here. Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira, 4 and 3 respectively in the lightweight division, are fighting for the title in I think it's May. So Dustin passed on the title shot here to fight Conor McGregor for a third time, and I think that's smart. Now, it's a gamble. It's definitely a gamble, but I do think it's smart. Here's why I think it's smart. Conor McGregor brings more eyes, more money. That's been, made pretty clear over his career than any normal fight would, including title fights for the most part. Well, no, not for the most part, including any title fight. Conor McGregor is really is the money fight. Conor McGregor is that dude in mixed martial arts. So, for Dustin to get consecutive victories over Conor McGregor in brutal fashion again, that does so much for himself, his family, his brand, and he still gets the title shot later on. So I love this gamble for Dustin. Now, if he were to lose to Conor McGregor, obviously he kissed the title shot goodbye. And Dustin isn't, even with the victory over Conor in the last meeting, if he were to lose to Conor in the trilogy, even though, he's not going to be able to get a title shot with another win afterwards. He's going to have to build himself back up. He's going to have to go on a win streak again. So it's a big gamble, man. I like it because the payoff is massive if he wins. But if he loses, man, that's tough. Now on Conor McGregor's side, Conor cannot lose to Dustin again. He can't. He needs to win this fight. He needs to restore some of that mystique, some of that, that aura, that Mystic Mac energy. He needs to restore that by defeating Dustin in this trilogy. If he were to lose, I don't want to say end of an era, but man, that would be devastating to the, not character, but the to his career, to the mystique of his career. It would be devastating. I still think he'd be the biggest star in mixed martial arts. I still think he would sell fine, but it wouldn't be the same, especially not the same in comparison to if he beats Dustin in emphatic fashion in the trilogy and goes on to fight for a title, to fight the Oliveira and a Chandler winner, to fight them after beating Dustin. Can you imagine if it's going to feel like the hype is back? It's going to feel like Mr. Mac is back. It's going to feel, re-energized. So he has to win this fight, plain and simple. He knows this. I'm sure his team knows this. I'm sure Conor McGregor fans, like myself, realize he has to win this fight. And man, I'm nervous. I'll be honest, I'm really nervous for this one. But I can't wait for it. The biggest fights are the ones that get you most nervous. So I'm very interested in that. Now, they also announced that Gilbert Burns and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is going to be the co-main event. And I'm very interested in this fight. I thought, honestly, they were going to make Burns versus Colby. Wonderboy's been calling for a top 5 guy for the longest time, so he finally gets it. And Burns gets a chance to build himself back up after that Usman loss. So that's a tough fight to call. I think I'm leaning towards Burns right now because of the takedown threat. Now Wonderboy is very hard to hit, but I feel like if Burns can mix up the takedowns, maybe chop at Wonderboy's lead leg a little bit, just mix things up, he could find that knockout shot. Because Vicente Luque did crack Wonderboy. Jeff Neal didn't really have much for Wonderboy, but Burns is faster. Burns cuts off the cage pretty nicely as well. There were a couple times in that Jeff Neal fight where Wonderboy had his back up against the fence. So right then and there, Burns could land a knockout shot. So, it's a 3-round fight. So, I don't know, man. I'm leaning towards Gilbert Burns, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch both guys. I'm gonna have to watch the recent fights to give a real breakdown of that fight. But I'm leaning towards Burns right now. To get back to Conor and Dustin, I think, maybe I haven't learned my lesson, but I'm leaning towards Conor in the trilogy. Now, here's why. There's something massive that I spoke about, that I mentioned earlier, that I was going to circle back to. I love Dustin. Dustin had a phenomenal game plan. The leg kicks were crucial. And he outpointed Conor in the feet largely. So, well, not largely, but, In the second round, for sure he did. So, but there is something that Conor's team, specifically I think it was his head coach John Kavanagh, came out and said after the fight, saying that they prepared for this fight against Dustin in a boxing heavy approach. So, basically he was saying they were preparing for Manny Pacquiao through this Dustin Poirier fight. That is foolish to me. You're preparing for a boxing fight through an MMA bout where you can use elbows, shoulders, clinch, takedowns, kicks. Like, what? That logic does not resonate with me. And you could see that in the Conor fight. Now, granted, Conor, again, like he landed some nice shots against Dustin, and he did win that first round even with that approach. But, a massive part of Conor McGregor's repertoire is kicks, the teeps, the spins, some of the flashy kicks that he throws. Now, I know he doesn't get a lot of knockouts with his kicks. Of course, it's the lead left hand, but those kicks set up the punches. Those kicks cut off the cage. Those kicks have his opponents guessing. Like, taking away the kicks from Conor McGregor's game plan or his repertoire is a massive blunder from Conor and his team. I'm not just putting blame on the team, because Conor, you have to know better than that. So that tells me he grossly underestimated Dustin. Now, granted, I did too. A lot of other people did too. So, I guess you can't blame Conor, but you can blame him because that's the reason he lost. He underestimated him. Going into that rematch, I thought, Dustin got hit a lot against Dan Hooker, got hit a lot against Max Holloway. Now, granted, he did win both of those fights, but I figured you get hit like that from them. What's Conor going to do? And, that was a bad, that was bad breakdown. But Conor coming into this with a boxing heavy approach, I think he threw like 3 kicks. I think he threw 1 spin. I think he threw a leg kick of his own, or maybe 2 leg kicks of his own. That was it. He tried a head kick as well. So I think either 3 or 4 kicks, but that's not enough, man. I'd like to see Conor throw his own leg kicks. I'd like to see Conor throw those teeps to the body, because those take the wind out of you. I'd like to see Conor throw more kicks, man. That's going to be a way to get back into this fight. And he can be a stationary target. And I think, if he needs to be moving around more, and with that movement, it's going to give Dustin, it's going to make him think about throwing the kicks a little more, instead of just throwing them. It's going to make him think a little bit more. So, I do like Conor. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Dustin has a real shot to win, because, again, like, I don't know how you check a calf kick. That's going to be hard. There, you feel your calf. There's nothing but soft. You absorb the brunt of that calf kick every time. So I'm interested to see what Conor has in store for that. But I think Conor grossly underestimated Dustin. I think it's apparent in how they prepared for this fight. They weren't expecting kicks. They weren't expecting takedowns. They were expecting a straight boxing fight from Dustin. And Dustin, credit to him and his coaches, they weren't going to fall for that trap. They weren't going to fall in and just stand on the feet with Conor. They mixed it up. They got a takedown. I think Dustin went for another takedown as well after that. They mixed in the clinch work, the kicks, as I mentioned. So I love what Dustin did in that second fight, and he needs to do that and more in the trilogy, because Conor is coming into this fight fully realizing the beast he has in front of him now. He's not underestimating him, and I feel like we're going to see both the best of both individuals. I don't think either one is over the hill. Don't think either one is washed. You know what I'm saying? Both these guys are in the prime of their lives, in their fighting career. And I cannot wait to watch this trilogy, man. The final showdown. You know, whoever wins this fight most likely is getting a title shot next. So we kind of have a Grand Prix going. The winner of Dustin Conor, the winner of Oliveira and Chandler, are going to fight each other. Now, I think Conor's going to win. I think he's going to have an answer for those kicks. I don't know what the answer is. I'm going to have to watch some of their recent fights. I'm going to have to rewatch their last fight. Dustin's recent fights. I'm gonna need to watch more to give a full breakdown, but I feel like he's gonna have something for those kicks. I think he's gonna get away from that boxing heavy approach where he's just standing in front of you, lead leg out for the takedown. I think he's gonna be more of a bouncy guy, more side stance karate fighter again. He's gonna have to be. I think he's gonna throw more kicks. He has to throw more kicks. And that left hand did land, and the right hand landed too. I think the right hand actually was the one that may have stunned Dustin the most. So, man, I think Conor is going to get this done. And as for Oliveira and Chandler, you know, an early prediction for that fight, I think, man, I think I'm gonna lean with Chandler, but I'm not confident. I think his wrestling could neutralize the takedown attempts from Oliveira, which means it's a standing fight. Now, Oliveira is fast, he's quick, he's longer than Chandler, so that's going to be interesting. But Chandler fought a long Dan Hooker, you know, in his debut and knocked him out. So I think I'm leaning towards Chandler. I'm leaning towards Conor right now. Now, my predictions could change. You know, again, I'm going to need to watch more to give a full breakdown. But those are my early predictions. Those are my thoughts, man. What a great year of fights, man. After coming from that Francis Stipe fight, this is a great year. We have Nate Diaz coming back against Leon Edwards. We have Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov just recently announced. Like, this is a great time to be a fight fan. I'm gonna break those fights down at a later date. Don't you worry. But that's all I got for today. Appreciate y'all. Much love to y'all. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, hit the noties. Let me know in the comment section who you think is gonna win this fight. Appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one.